Hello there, Impact Zone podcast. We are back here to talk more TNA wrestling shenanigans, as always. Now, I kind of wanted to wait just a little bit for this, but you know what? I'm going to do it now. I was waiting to see if the TV numbers were going to plateau at some point, but they really haven't. Like, every now and again, the TV numbers have dropped and fallen and dropped and fallen and that sort of thing, or they've sort of hovered around roughly the same. But in the last, couple of times, they have just gone up and up and up every few weeks by at least a couple thousand, 10,000, 20,000 views. So that is what we're discussing today, the number of views that we're getting on the new AMC deal. So I'm going to bundle these more or less sort of into, I guess, rough areas of categories, which is the first two episodes, I guess, because they're roughly about the same number of views. I don't think 3 is kind of its own story, so I guess I'll bundle it to itself more so. 4 and 5 are a bit outliery, so I might talk about them separately too. 6 and 7, though, are very basically the same, so I'll talk about them together. But 8 and 9 are also fairly far apart, so I'll talk about them separately too. So to get specific, not the specific ocean, but specific in the numbers, and I'm sure you can look these up as well if you want, but I might put them up on the screen as I'm talking about them, just to show you guys what I am actually talking about. So the first episode and the second episode, number of viewers was, for the first episode was 173K, second episode was 171K. Now, the first episode was a live episode, so, you can maybe account for saying, hey, there was a little bit more interest first time that they're going live in a lot, they've done a few lives here and there or whatever else it is. Their last live probably did, something like 20K, something like that, maybe somewhere in there, between 10 and 18K, something like that. I don't know what their last lives were. They've been really, really low. So those are pretty decent numbers, very good numbers for TNA. They usually only get up to 100,000, 100K thereabouts. Most of the time on, and I should have said an extra 20K, on the 100. So they usually get 100K. So their lives usually get 120K, at the most. So yeah, getting a 50,000 basically extra viewership, 50K viewership, is pretty darn good, for the first shows. I do think though that they're despite the amount of promotion that went into saying, hey, we're coming to AMC, we're gonna be there, we're gonna be square, this is the day that we're on, this is the time that we're on, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, all of that. I think there was still, I don't know whether there was reprehensions of people tuning in. Maybe there was to some extent, but I think that there was a lot of curiosity. I think there's been a lot of curiosity for a while, but to get this much more viewership has to mean something. In my opinion, it's not just saying, oh, we're on this new channel and we're on this new network and we're, yes, obviously you can be on a bigger network, but you can be on the biggest network and still get 20K views or whatever it is. Or just about 100K views, so getting 50k extra views above what you normally would get, or even 70k views above what you would normally get, 73, 71, is insane. Like that's really insane. Like I think their absolute peak on access was something like 200k, but that was like during COVID when there was like literally nothing on and all of that sort of stuff. So I would also assume that this has been really weird with the live episodes and the taped episodes. Some of the taped episodes have done really, really well, and even done better than some of the live episodes, which doesn't make sense to me, because like usually 9 times out of 10 when you have a live episode, people are like, well, we don't know what's happened for the last 2 or 3 weeks or whatever it's been, because like you've got all these episodes that are in the can, so to speak. So yeah, why would we tune in when we can look up the results? And yes, maybe you might want to see the actual wrestling or the actual promos or whatever else it is, but you could just as easily tune in to YouTube or TikTok or to whatever other social media platform and see the highlights of these things, or even just wait to tune in for the pay-per-views or the monthly specials or whatever you want to call them, which are still available as pay-per-views, which is why I call them pay-per-views. But yeah, like that. Those are for the first couple of weeks, especially the second one. Only a 2k drop when you're like got a taped episode. That's pretty darn good. The episode 3 jumped to 201k, so that's like basically just over their record of whatever they were getting on Access TV. And that's in the 3rd episode, and that's 30k more viewers than what they were getting the last 2 weeks. And I believe that was a taped episode. I'm not going to go through the demo, the 18 to 49 demo, and how much percentage that's getting, because like I don't really care about the demo that much, and I know that's probably what we should care about the most to an extent, but the thing is, I think we care most about raw numbers. The raw numbers are the thing that we should care about the most, because if people are tuning in, that's a good thing. And I think it's important to discuss like where we're at, what numbers we're getting, like what's going on, what sort of base are we at. So episode 4 was 141k, episode 5 was 254k, episode 6 was 233k, so was episode 7. Episode 8 was 249k, and episode 9 was 259k. So those are some really decent numbers. Now, the main reason I wanted to wait was till I got to episode 10, because 10 is a very like good round number, but these numbers are insane, and like I can't wait. I've got to talk about them. Getting a 30k more viewers than what you're typically going to get, and basically just about equaling your record on episode 3 is insane. Then basically getting another, well, I say 30k, but it's really 41k is insane on episode 4. Episode 5, you got, 13k on the last episode, being 254k. So that's pretty insane. It drops down on episode 6 and episode 7, but it's still 233k for both of those episodes. Keeping in mind that they were only basically ever doing, like, at a max 100k. Like, that's insane. Like, most of the time they were doing, like, 90-something k, whatever it was. So here they are. They haven't even posted something below 100k. Which is like really good for them. Like they would sometimes do 100k or 110k or 150k or whatever. But like like the only times that they really broke those numbers was during COVID. Um, so yeah, that's insane. Like insane to look at saying, hey, here we are at episode 6 getting 233K. And again, this is where it's like people, like again, the one of the reasons why we're getting, well, there's a lot of reasons, but there is one of the reasons why we're getting so many viewers, and I want to discuss the numbers going up and down and whatnot in a second, but one of the reasons is because WWE, like, people are just getting disenfranchised with WWE. You know, they want an alternative. And I think, again, people who want to say that AEW is the only other real competition for WWE are dumb. Because, yes, maybe these are close to Collision numbers. I think they get something like 300K, something like that. But, like, that's where you've got to start, like, looking from where we were or where TNA was, like, a couple of months ago to where they are now, which is, like, they've gone from basically 100K views to nearly 260-odd K views. So you've gotten 160K worth of viewers, roughly speaking, to tune into your product in the last, like, couple of months. And that's not just saying, oh, we're on this new network and whatever. If you didn't have, like, again, like, a lot of people complained about the first episode and whatnot, and the pacing of it and things like that. All of this other stuff and whatnot. But they, like, again, there's only so much they can do sometimes because, again, there's the global visa issues that were going on at that time. So they couldn't get some of their wrestlers to come in. And, like, they haven't really had that many, I won't say none, but they haven't really had that many NXT, WWE crossovers or anything like that of recently. Like, they had some stuff on their AMC debut, but beyond that, they just had Mickie James come in. They had ODB come in. That's been about it. I mean, ODB isn't a big WWE name, but she's a big TNA name. So those are really the only big names that have kind of come in. You know, like, you've had some indie talent coming in and whatnot. You just got Ricky Sosa coming in and whatnot. So, like, there's been some people coming in that haven't been in the company before or whatever. But, again, like, you haven't had you haven't had Chris Jericho come over. You haven't had any big names come over, or even any smaller names really come over and do anything with TNA. So it's like, yes, there's been rumors, and I've even discussed a few of those rumors, and maybe that is where people are like, oh, better tune in and see if Bayley turns up in TNA or whatever, you know, that sort of thing. But that hasn't really happened yet. No one really has turned up from WWE except for Mickie. And I believe she's only working on, like, a Legends deal or whatever else it is and all that sort of stuff. I think she basically said, well, I'm basically not asking for permission. All I'm going to do is say, hey, I'm going, bye, or whatever. Or she just went and said, if they said, hey, you can't do that, she went, I just did, so too late, or whatever. You know, like, they did sign Candice Michelle, but she's, like, backstage and that stuff, so I don't really count that. That's like, she was on the AMC debut as well, actually. Actually, they had Leon Garcia and Chris Van Vliet in the audience there a couple of times, and that they've had a few people in the audience, things like that. But, like, I don't think people are, like, tuning in to see Lillian Garcia in the audience for 5 seconds or whatever it is. You know, like, who cares? Like, yes, it's cool to see that they're here or whatever, Chris Van Vliet's here or whatever else it is, or Jelly Roll's here or whoever else is here or whatever. That's not really what you're tuning in to see. Like, you're tuning in to see major superstars. You're, like, again, that's why I said, like, no one's going to tune in to see, like, random NXT jobbers that are, or basically lower card people that are just there. You know, yes, they might be like, oh, this person has the TNA title, this title, or that title, or whatever else it is. That's cool. And they seem to have a cool story. Maybe I'll follow it in TNA. I don't know. But again, how much wrestling can you watch in a week? Whatever. But again, people are disillusioned with WWE. And they're looking for an alternative. And yes, AEW is there. I don't want to discredit them or take anything away from them or whatever else it is. But I do think that AEW has its own specific fan base. And I think they've been around for 4 or 5 years or something like that. I don't even know now. But yeah, they've been around for a while, and people know what they're all about, basically. If you wanted to tune into AEW by now, you pretty much would have done. They've been on the same, deal and same station and same everything for the last few years. So there isn't really that many new people that are really going to tune into them to discover them. Maybe people will tune in one week or another week or whatever else it is to catch up on things, or to if there's a hot angle or something like that, or whatever, things like that. Or if their friend says, hey, you better, tune in right now, this is happening, or that's happening, or this person's here, or that, whatever. They just had Ronda Rousey turn up, or whatever else it was. But whatever, again, you can only have so many of these. We have this great debut, then they disappear. We have this great debut, but then they disappear. We have this great debut, but then they disappear. Thing going on for so long, and they've basically had that for their basically entire run, where it's been here's this person. Wow, look, oh, well, bye. Oh, wow, here's this person. Oh, wow, oh, look, bye. That's the way it's been going. It's just here comes this person to do a thing. Oh, cool, next week, where are they, basically? Forgotten about. They've got too many people that they have got no plans to do really anything with. So it's just how can anyone be so excited to see somebody debut there? Because it's well, we know that they're just going to disappear next week. We know we're not going to see anything from them. We know that they're just going to flounder in the mid card, or just flounder in the lower card, or whatever else it is, or be on the B show or C show or D show or F show or whatever else it is. So why are we excited to see this person come in? We just know that they're not going to do anything. Again, it's not like that in TNA, where if somebody does come in, well, they're going to be doing something. They're going to be there next week. They're going to be here the week after that, and the week after that, and the week after that, and so on and so forth. It's not like they're just here. And there's not, again, maybe you can argue that say, oh, well, there's maybe one or two many mid-card-ish titles in TNA, but there's 20 in AEW. And I don't want to discredit them or just counter everything to say that, or just downgrade them or whatever. I just am saying, this is the facts. They've got so many mid-card belts, and just it's all meaningless because, again, you don't know what you're doing. You haven't concisioned down to say, these titles are the most important. Why are these titles needed? It's just, here's a trophy just for participation. Go out there and have a good match. Bye. You're not really going to get any great big stories or whatever else it is or whatnot. You're just here and you're just a showcase in the show that, yeah, and that's great to be a showcase in the show, but again, instead of you're just here, okay, cool, go out there and have a great match, bye. It's you need to invest, and you need to say, why is this person here? Why does this title mean something to them? Especially when it's a mid-card title, because they mean a whole lot less to the audience. Unless they're a new, young, up-and-coming person, or whatever else it is, or again, the title represents a specific division, maybe you could get away with it, but then it's well, you have too many other titles basically doing the same thing again, but whatever. Anyway, again, looking at the numbers, these numbers are, for the most part, except for 6 and 7, they're all going up, 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 up. So yeah, and it's all by not insignificant, 1K, 2K, 3K, or whatever. less than 5K or whatever. It's by basically, 40K, 10K, 8K, like, where is this here? 10K again, like, so every time they're getting, 10K or 8K, 9K, whatever, something like that, more than 5K people tuning in, at least 10K people roughly tuning in each time. So the first real jump is 30K, the second real jump is like, 40K, the next one is like 10K, then you drop down a little bit for the next 2 episodes, down by about 20K, but then you're up again, basically up 20K, and then the next one is up again by about 10K. So again, it's like, you're not looking at, like, maybe those 2, 6 and 7 were somewhat outliers, but they're still not nearly as far down as what episode 1 and 2 are. Like, every episode past 3 has been in the 200K range. So again, like, somebody said, that I was talking to, that they should get to over 300K by the end of the year. Absolutely, 100%. I agree with that. I actually think that they could get there in the next 6 months or so, maybe. But we'll have to wait and see. Like, they have to put more effort into everything, and they have to put more time into everything. And yeah, like, I do think, like, I know some people say the 3 hours is too long, but I don't know. If you have something exciting in every one of those friggin' hours, and it feels like it has a good pace to it, you're not just filling it with random stuff or whatever else it is. If you're extending some of these matches as well, like giving some of these matches that need a little bit more time, or whatever else it is, that's good. People want to see competitive matches. People want to see, like, interesting storylines and interesting character moments and things like that. Yes, maybe it means you've got to film a little bit more, or I don't know, but again, maybe there's so much stuff that gets, like, ending up on the cutting room floor, so to speak, or whatever else it is, because again, it's like, well, we only have so many minutes to fill. But that's the thing, you've got to fill those minutes. Like, even if they move to 2.5 hours, I don't know whether that would work or whether that would be good. But again, I do feel like they could add some more time to the show to make it feel like, okay, some more of this stuff gets highlighted and whatnot, and you get more show each week. And if people are digging it and whatnot, then yeah, maybe going to 3 hours will be good, but, like, I would say that that's absolutely the maximum. Never go past, like, 3 hours. I think over 3 hours for anything starts becoming like, whoa, what? Even if your show is really good and it feels like has that pulse and has that pace and has that thing about it that people go, wow, I just wanted more. I just, like, I wanted to see more of what they were showing me. I didn't get bored for really 1 minute. Yes, maybe you might say that some of the promos or whatever are a little bit tedious or a little bit boring or whatever else it is, but you're, like, even if you're a knowledgeable fan and well, somebody's going to come out here and interrupt this shit, you're going to be like, dude, well, who's going to come out and interrupt this shit? Like, I can't wait to see who comes out or what happens or what goes on, because you might not ever know. You might think, oh, I know who's going to come out, but you might not. You might be like, oh, ODB, she's here, she's back, wow, cool. Haven't seen her in a hot minute, whatever. Oh, here's Mickie James, wow, cool, we haven't seen her in a hot minute, And we thought, hey, Mickie James is with WWE or whatever. So how is she here? What's going on? Has WWE left her off the leash, or did she say, hey, or did she just turn up and say, oh well, if they bitch and moan, oh well, I'll just say, oh well, too bad, whatever. I don't know whether that was the case or whatever. I'm not gonna say otherwise, or not gonna know, but whatever. It is not relevant to me. But yeah, so, I mean, Like the second highest, besides this episode, which was the highest, episode was episode 5 at 154K thus far. So, like, in this last episode, I actually complained a little bit to say, like, there was a few things that I felt like, oh, that's a little bit, or whatever, those sorts of things. Like, especially, like, having two, basically jobber matches on the show, which are just, like, not very exciting. They're only for, like, a couple of minutes at most. It does feel like, wow, that's pretty good for a show that had two jobber matches. The opening match was pretty garbage, to be honest. But, like, yeah, the rest of the show was really, really good. And there were some really good segments. Like, I've said this before, TNA has some really, really great talent. They have some really, really great storylines going on in the company. But now it's like you've got that chance of, you know, people being able to actually, you know, tune into this show and being able to get to see what is actually going on. And, you know, again, I sort of said this before, like, you know, the word gets out there. Hey, I checked it out. They've actually got a good show, you know, come and check it out. They've got some, you know, established stars. They've got some up-and-comers. You should check it out. Plus, people are, again, just looking for alternatives to WWE right now. And even, like, again, looking for alternatives to AEW and things like that. And the thing about TNA that makes it different, again, I'll get back to this, is that, again, like, AEW has its fans. And I'm not trying to bash them or whatever else it is. If you're a fan of that, and I've tuned into some AEW and whatnot, but I'm not the biggest fan, you know. They have some absolutely outstanding wrestling, but they're such a big company, again, that I do feel like even in TNA, which it does happen in every company, but again, a lot of people get lost in the shuffle, so to speak. But TNA has so much space for everyone to kind of exist and to do something, I feel like. And it doesn't ever feel like, well, maybe a few things here and there, but, you know, it doesn't really ever feel like, oh man, they're just doing this because, you know, they don't want this person to succeed or that person to succeed, or they're just giving them a consolation prize for something or whatever, you know, for the most part. Like, it does feel like that sometimes, or it feels like, hey, well, we could have done more with that or whatever. Absolutely. But, like, there are still times that you're going, well, there must be a reason for this. There has to be a reason for this. Like, it's not just, it's Tuesday and we've decided to do this. You know, it's to say, hey, well, you know, again, when I think, like, back to when Kazarian won the international title, like, I thought that since he won it and he lost it in a month, it was like, wow, that was kind of a waste of time. But then I was like, well, thing is, this is a brand new belt. This is a brand new belt. What helps a brand new belt? Legacy. Legacy, right? Okay? If you have somebody the level of Frankie Kazarian, who was, like, you know, on the cusp of being a main eventer at the time and being in a lot of main events, and went on literally just after that to get the world heavyweight title and be the main event player for that company. Holding that belt at that time meant a whole lot for it, and adding his name to that lineage helped elevate the title in some regards. It didn't really help elevate Kazarian because he was already at that level. And maybe it didn't really help Steve Maclin, kind of, because he was kind of at that level. But it kind of gave Steve Maclin something to do, because he needed something to do. He needed a feud. He needed some matches. He needed stuff to do for a little while, you know, we were waiting to do some other stuff with him, and while we were planning other stuff and planting some seeds and doing some story stuff with him. It wasn't just, we're doing this stuff because it's Tuesday or whatever. We're doing this stuff because, again, we've got a plan for Steve, and this is part of his story. You know, he's going somewhere. You know, like, he beats Kazarian. So he gets a little bit of a rub. Then Kazarian goes off and wins the world title. And there's a lot of interest because, again, you have that whole thing of, well, now, can Macklin potentially claw his way up a bit more? It didn't happen, but again, still it was that interest, there was that potential, there was that, level of people seeing Macklin, elevated slightly in some regards because he just beat the guy who is now the world champion. That sort of thing. That still resonates and people still remember that sort of thing. So you're having that little bit of a thing over it, even though it didn't really ever come to anything, was a little bit of, oh, well, maybe Macklin will get there. And then he kind of lost the belt, but then they were like, well, he can't hold the belt and, be in the main event or whatever. So, and again, it's not just about Macklin, but it's about the whole team. But I'm just using Macklin as an analogy or as a example in this regard. Macklin is a very, and I would say a couple of years ago he won the belt, but he is a very exciting younger prospect. He isn't a fully established prospect yet. I think that him winning the belt that time, and it was a fairly short run, honestly, there was some good things in that, and I still think that he's super duper talented. And I do think that they've got great big plans for him, but how those plans are going to come to fruition is still what people are interested in. They're not just interested in Macklin. They are interested in him, obviously. But his story and what he's doing and how he's going through it is what people are interested in, and how it's going to affect everybody and everything else. Because again, everyone's beloving Mike Santana. Mike Santana is the man, and he is driving most of this. You have to accept that is the case. And obviously, if they had some bigger and better superstars and whatever else it was, or whatnot, then, of course, yes, sure, they'd be getting bigger, or even a bigger network, same thing. Again, they'd be getting bigger and better numbers if they had more money, or I don't want to say they were, not so frugal with their money, but if they were more willing to hire, people, and more willing to say, let's just throw money at the problem and let's hire as many people as what we can hire. Great, cool, great. But then you've got to say, okay, how are we actually using those people? Because if we're paying all these people all this money and we're not using them, well, what's the point of us having them? You know what I mean? We've got to have a reason to bring them on, not just, hey, let's bring them on. Yes, they could be very talented or very over or very good for what we're doing, but again, we've got a lot of people on our roster for that could be going somewhere and are going somewhere. So again, where would they fit in? We're not just going to bring on people just for the sake of bringing people on, and certainly in some divisions there needs to be some more people and some more stuff going on. But again, at a certain point, that's fine. It's fine because, again, the main event is the thing that most people, will tune in for. Your main event scene is, I don't know how else to put this, but it is the thing that people get to see the most of, or get to connect with and get to is the most visible, obviously. Again, the people that are the main eventers or the semi-main eventers and that sort of thing are the people that people will go, oh shit, this Mike Santa person, he's really cool and whatnot, or the Steve Macklin, he's really crazy and whatnot, or he's a badass son of a bitch or whatever, even though he's a deluded son of a bitch as well, but he is a badass kind of as well. Same for your women's division. Again, maybe some things weren't working. Like I said, I feel like changing things up as quickly as possible was the best. Like, I hate the hot potatoing, but I do think at that point that it was, you just needed to change things. Things were just not working because despite how many people may have been for what you were kind of doing, it just wasn't really getting as over as what you wanted, and perhaps that was part of your own fault. But again, this was more or less thrust on you by WWE. And that's another thing, just being like, let's not take anything from WWE. If WWE comes a knocking and says, hey, here we go, let's do this together or whatever, cool, okay, great. How many days or how many weeks or whatever else it is are we going to get this person? No, you're only getting them for tonight. Okay, cool, right, whatever. So they're going to lose. No, they're going to win. No, they're going to lose. No, they're going to win. Well, then they're just making an appearance and saying hello, because we're not going to job out our guys to one of your guys who's not going to be here next week, or not going to be here next month, or not going to be here next year, or whatever else it is. That's where I said that before with, like, Joe Hendry coming in and whatnot. I said that was, like, the dumbest thing or one of the last things that they did that was actually dumb that, they probably shouldn't have done, where it was like, he comes in and he wins. Like, why? He's not going to be here next week. Who cares? And people love Joe Hendry, and I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but if he's not going to be here on this roster, it's the same thing for, the part-time guys in WWE or anything like that. If you're not going to be here next week, why should we care that you win? Because you're taking away something from, the people that are here and are going to be here next week, next month, next year, etc., etc., etc. So again, why do that? Let's just not do that. Let's have Cedric and Moose go one-on-one and whatnot and have that match, which you were going to have the next night on TV anyway, and then save some TV time. Yes, maybe that'll take away some viewers or whatever else, but still, your major players absolutely have to be front and center again, and you have to try to make other people feel like major players. Before, Cedric Alexander, and he still somewhat felt like a much lower level on the par because he hadn't really won any matches in TNA. Then he finally beat Moose. In their match. I think he actually did have a win here or there too, but that was like the first major win where it was like, holy heck, what the hell is going on here? But it was like, obviously this is for an angle or whatever else it is and all that sort of stuff, to an extent. But like, you're saying, oh, okay, this is where we're going with this, to that expectation of saying, hey, this is where we're going and what we're doing or whatever. But again, you're saying, hey, here we go, Moose, big time name, like been around for a while, actually, honestly. People forget how long he's been there. Even I forget how long he's kind of been there. Eddie, big time name in TNA at least. Like, even if, like, I say this about some of the big time names, and a few of them, honestly. A lot of them are wrestlers who their time is kind of past to an extent. I still think that right now you can sort of argue that Eddie is kind of like, you can build him back up into that space because he's kind of been away from that space for a little while. So building him back into that space of that main eventer space and saying, hey, he belongs there. I think, like, you've got to start thinking, like, again, same thing. This is like, you're starting to look like, no, this has got to be close to being it for him at that main event level. He'll be at that semi-main event level soon. Like, he's already been in the mid-card before, but he'll be in another level soon. He won't be doing the main event stuff. Like, and even then it's like, is he really in the main event? Like, sort of thing. Not really, but like, you're giving him a main event level angle kind of thing. So you're trying to push him into that space later down the road, later down the track, whatever else it is. And you've got something planned for him. Even when I'm saying here the other week, like they had Nick Nemeth go from being in the main event, then you're going to face Leon and you lose to Leon. Now it feels like, oh shit, you just went from, being set in the main card, and now this week you're like doing a tag team match, so you're basically going more into the mid card of that tag team area. Maybe if you win a match or two or whatever, you'll get into being like, okay, contendership for the tag team title, so that'll be in the semi-main event or the main event of that division, but that's still like more or less the semi-main event division, for the most part. You're never, mostly never going to be the real main event level being a tag team. Like, there's only a few people that can be really great tag teams, main event level tag teams. So, but yeah, you've got so many positives in that company, and it's just capitalizing on it. It's just not so much landing the ship, or landing the plane, so to speak, or whatever. I guess it's like avoiding as much of the troll bait as possible, I guess. Like, I've said that before, kind of thing, where it's like they just need to have a good, consistent show, and they've got a fairly good show. Like, there's just a few things that do need a little bit of help, but those small things are very small things for the most part. So again, for the most part, like, yes, maybe they had 2 jobber matches on the same show. Well, people didn't seem to care. They had a really bad opener for the Hardys there, which was mostly their fault or whatever. But again, seemingly people didn't really care, because again, people like the Hardys and they want to see them. So, and again, the rest of the show was really good. They had a lot of really good stuff, and maybe they had this thing floating around for a little while about Ali potentially coming into TNA, which we haven't really talked about a whole lot specifically, but I've talked about it here and there. People have wanted her to come back to TNA for a long ass time, and maybe not newer viewers have wanted her to come back, but because they probably don't even barely know who she is, or that she was even there, or whatever else, or any of that other stuff or whatnot. But again, it's something that a lot of fans who have watched for a long time have gone, yeah, we want her back, or we want more stuff that really emphasizes this division and this thing, or there's other things going on, there's other stories happening. The stories don't have to revolve around the titles, or not even, they could revolve around the titles, obviously, but they don't have to revolve around the titles right here and right now. That's not what is needed for every single match and every single feud. Obviously, that is somewhat a lot of what you get to see. But since the titles are, for the most part, more compacted, and there's not again, you don't have 2 world titles like WWE does. You don't have 2, sets of tag team titles like WWE does. And I'm not talking about NXT. You don't have really 2 sets of mid-card titles like the IC and the US title that are basically the same effective title. You don't have those sorts of things where it's which title is actually the main title, and it's always the same answer realistically in WWE. There's always an A title and a B title, an A division and a B division for the most part. And I like I've said many times, that would be one way to really make everything better and more interesting. And yes, again, I get people saying, well, that eliminates something else for somebody else to do to an extent, well, that's the way you could make like the mid-card titles or the other titles or the tag titles or something else mean more, because now you have to have your best teams and your best stories or your best stars in that division fighting for those few resources, which is where it's like in TNA for the most part. You know, you don't have all these other extra titles. You maybe have one or two extra titles that maybe you could say, oh, we could kind of do without, or the division is kind of lacking, or whatever else it is. And even on the X division, you could say, oh, well, they're a little bit lacking or whatever. But the international division is a little bit lacking, and the women's tag teams are a little bit lacking. But for the most part, that's it. Like, yes, but you still got like other things going on in those divisions, or at least around them, or at least around the whole company in general. And again, you've got your superstars, even people that have been there for a fair while, off and on, or whatever else it is, like Trey Miguel. I can't even remember. He's been there for like 6 or 7 years or something, off and on. You know, in the last few years, it's like, you know, I think he joined just before COVID or around that time. So he's been there for a good while, really, and people kind of forget that, you know. So he's been doing a lot of great stuff for a long time there, and I think this is his first singles title since his X Division title run, which was, you know, a couple of years ago now. So yeah, that you know, to put the level of trust into somebody and say, you just left us, but since you're coming back, hey, we still love you, we still appreciate you, we still think that you've got something, you know, we still want to work together. And that's the thing, like that's the good parts about TNA as well. It's like the locker room, you know, is very harmonious and very supportive of one another. And even management is very supportive and, you know, whatnot of people. Like, there is a certain level of us being like, I don't know, like the armchair quarterbacks and being a bit, you know, like defensive or whatever about people going to other places and not staying here. It's like, yeah, that's what we want. We want people to stay here. This is where we want to see them, because we want an alternative to WWE. We don't want people to go to WWE because we want people to stay here. We don't want them there. We want them here. It's the same for AEW. Like I said before, it's like, same thing. We want an alternative to AEW. If you don't want to watch WWE, but you want to watch a show that is like WWE, but isn't the same as WWE, then I think AEW is a completely different show. Like, yes, there are some similarities because it is wrestling at the end of the day. But, like, again, AEW has a lot more. Yes, they do bring in WWE stars and whatnot and all of that stuff. That's great. But are you really going to watch the show that is basically trying to be WWE light? That is saying, hey, we're the alternative to WWE, while they're trying to say, hey, but we're also WWE light? Or are you going to watch the show that is like, yes, we are an alternative to WWE, and maybe we have a few WWE stars or whatever else it is, but we don't have a lot of them. But what we do have is we have some young and up-and-coming stars. And, you know, even like people that, you know, people kind of like haven't really perhaps taken a chance on, or, you know, whatever else it is. Like, I think, you know, WWE kind of missed on Macklin. They missed on a lot of people, but, like, you know, it is what it is sometimes, and I get that. We, like, TNA has missed on people as well, to an extent. But yeah, like, again, you know, you've got to think, like, not just that we've missed, but how many times have we hit? And yes, like, you might not have hit with every single thing every single time, but and in every single way. But it's like, if we're giving something to this person, you know, then we still care. Then we still want to work with them. We want to give them a story. We want to give them, you know, something. We want the audience to tell us, this is what we want. This is what we want. This is what we want, you know. And again, there's no, like, unless, like, I wanted to talk about this perhaps in a separate video as well, but there's no way for anyone to truly, like, especially on the indies and whatnot, truly force feed their thing into it, you know, because the indies and the smaller promotions have to maintain their fans. And that's what they have to, I hope they're realizing, they have to realize, is that the only way that you get, and yes, again, there's going to be people that say negative things or are trying to be constructively critical or whatever else it is, and that sort of thing, or whatnot. And there's also going to just be those trolling people out there that say, oh, everything's bad and it's all shit, or whatever else it is, or whatnot. But again, that's not the truth. You know, if you're like, and I am not looking at the attendances here, so maybe at some point we'll look at the attendances or try to look at the attendances of some of these shows and whatnot as well. But again, like, just looking at the numbers, these numbers are just going up and up and up and up and up. So there's nothing here for anyone to say, oh, well, you know, they're doing worse or whatever else. No, they're doing better than they ever have in the past, like, 10, 15-ish years or so. So they're on the up. Perhaps, yes, they're not quite at the level of, you know, AEW's D show or whatever else it is, but they were miles away from that before, and now they're closing the gap. They weren't even, like their numbers weren't even really changing that much post-COVID. Like, realistically, their numbers on Access were not changing. And the revenue that they were getting was not changing. They were just getting whatever they were getting. And now they have however many million to play with. And I think, again, investing that money into the actual things that the wrestling needs, the arenas, you know, renting the arenas or whatever else it is, renting the filming equipment, or whatever it is, buying the filming equipment, buying better cameras, buying better, you know, equipment in general, buying, you know, even talking new sponsors and things like that, because sponsorships help drive the prices down, or they should help drive the prices down. And again, that's another great thing, you know. It's not like where it's, even if you were happy with what WWE was offering you in terms of storylines and whatnot, which I know a lot of people are, but like there are some people that are disillusioned with what WWE is doing. But the thing is, even if you were happy with that storyline, could you afford a ticket? You know, that's the problem. How much are these tickets? My God, they're expensive. So again, and they're in huge amounts of profit, which is like great in some ways, but it's just, where is that money going? And again, it doesn't seem like they really want, like, they don't really need to reinvest the money, but like they should reinvest the money into other things. They shouldn't just say, oh, well, let's keep the ball rolling as it is. No, you should be trying to say, how can we make this thing the best? And how do we then say, okay, now we've made it as good as what we can make it, or whatever, or as good as we think we can make it. Now can we, put the prices back to where they were? Or do we need to get, or maybe we can at least discount the prices now, or whatever, or put them down a little bit. No, there's none of that. You know, whereas with TNA, I don't think they've raised their prices at all, but they probably need to just a little bit in some regards to be like, we need to charge just a little bit more or get more sponsorships or something so that we can, improve what we're putting out, visually, technically, just anything, everything. It shouldn't look like, and it doesn't, but it shouldn't look like a B-level, show. It should look like, hey, wait, this show, and it looks pretty darn good, but it doesn't look perfect all the time. But again, and some of the sets need work, or some of the arenas, it would look a little better, or whatever, to do something else or whatever, especially for like some of the pay-per-views. Again, buying things or owning things that are, okay, this is for Rebellion. This is, every year we're going to use this thing for Rebellion. Every year we're going to use this thing for Slammiversary. Or every year we're going to use this for Bound for Glory. Or even the same thing, you could use it for Slammiversary and Bound for Glory and these other big time shows, whatever else it is. Or even any of the other shows that you've got. Just saying, hey, well, we're going to use it because we've got it. We've bought it. We needed to have something that added that extra little, thing to the shows. That je ne sais quoi, as they say, to all these shows. Because, again, that's what people want to see. People want to see, like the old school SmackDown Fest, like they used to have. Like, that's the sort of thing that you've got to think, okay, how can we add something like that? We can't do the same thing, but we should do something similar. Tables, ladders, and chairs. They used to have all those, chairs, like, hanging from the rafters or whatever else it is. Okay, we don't really have anything that's related to chairs or whatever else or things like that, but we could do a similar thing. Okay, we could do something like that. There's so many sets that WWE have had in the years, and now they just use the LED boards, and TNA is doing the same. You've got to have more than that. You've got to have something, that sets each show apart. Not just the lighting or the colors or whatever else. Or, again, like the ring ropes could be different, the turnbuckles could be different. Like you could have so many different things be different, and like those little touches sometimes add a lot, especially for a smaller show. Like people do sometimes expect a little bit less, or will accept a little bit less, especially since you're like, hey, if we make that little bit of effort, people will notice it, and people will go, hey, they actually care, and they're actually listening to us saying, hey, this is the sort of thing that we want. We want to see more real sets, more real stuff, more, like that sort of thing, more design, not just an electronic board. That's great, that's cool, or more just lights. We want, like, you've got to have, the setup. You've got to have, like, a visual representation. Where are we? Okay, we're in a beachside city. Okay, let's bring in some cheap stuff, like some inflatable tubes and a little kiddie pool or something. Like, let's theme it around where we are. We're in Texas. Okay, cool. So let's have, like, I don't know, some cowboys or something, or have like a Western theme or something. Anything, those sorts of things that make it feel like not just like the Elegance brand coming out in their outfits. That's great, that's cool, and that does set them apart as well. But having some of this other stuff to say, let's have this, let's have that, whatever else it is. And if you're going to have celebrities sometimes, or these minor celebrities, even if people don't know who they are sometimes, because I don't know who some of these people are, like keeping their involvement to a minimum and to being short and sweet is the best. Like when ODB came out and she, hunched up to the Elegance brand, and she poured all that like stuff all over the Elegance brand, and she got the cast of whatever show it was, some dating show or whatever else it was, I can't remember, some marriage show or something. I don't know. Don't really care. To help her throw the piles of stuff on the Elegance brand, it was like, oh, that's cool. That they didn't get too involved. They weren't there for too long or whatever else it was. It served its purpose and they moved on. Quick little ha ha hee hee. They got, doused in this, icky stuff or whatever else it was, and then you move on. But it's nice to see ODB back. People like that. And then it's like, hey, here's another pop because, hey, you tossed the nasty stuff on the people that were being dickheads. Like, huzzah. And that's the thing. People come to these shows, and if people enjoy themselves, that's and the same thing if people are tuning in week to week, month to month, whatever it is, if they're enjoying themselves for the most part, hey, whatever. We're doing the right thing. We're dragging people along and dragging people in to see what we're doing. And hopefully next week, I don't know whether we'll keep up with this, but that's the thing. Like, I do feel like we need to talk about it more. And perhaps I even need to say it, hey, but sometimes these, like, numbers don't come out for a couple of days or a couple of weeks or whatever else it is. So sometimes it is hard to keep track of, okay, what's happening? When is that happening? When do we get the numbers or whatever else it is? So, yeah, it isn't a system or a thing to have to make sure, okay, we and how accurate is this? That's why you've got to have multiple sources to be like, okay, it was about this or it was about that or it was about, whatever. So yeah, like, it does take some time sometimes to say, hey, BTW, this was the number, that was the number, but just like looking through these numbers, like, it isn't all about numbers, but it is, like, important. People forget that. Like, WWE, they don't need to worry about, well, they do need to right now, but they don't really need to ever worry about numbers that much because they've got money, and that's all they really need. They've got their money, so that's all they really need. And I think that it will be different soon, hopefully. But yeah, they're making a lot of money, and I do think that they could reduce the price of the tickets, like having some tickets be premium tickets. Absolutely, that's fine. People can understand that. But if you're just saying, hey, how much is it just for, a seat way, 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 way up in the back somewhere, whoop, whoop, and it's still like an arm and a leg and a kidney, it's like, dude, what the hell? You're the biggest company in the world, and you've got the biggest sponsorships in the world. These tickets should be way cheaper for the people that, have been there and, have fought through everything with you for however long to get you to here. It should be cheap for the for the families, for the average, working Joe, so to speak. And that's where TNA and AEW and other companies need to find, the mix. It's like, do you want to go to WrestleMania? Probably, but can I afford to go to WrestleMania? Well, no, I can't afford to go to WrestleMania because they're asking $40,000 a ticket or something like that, something ridiculous, or something close to that, and like they're making more money than ever, like, and again, that's them being like, hey, we want to make more money, want to make more money. I understand that. But if it's not enhancing or going back to enhancing what the fans get to see or get to experience, especially those fans that when they buy their tickets, they don't get anything premium added to their ticket. They just get a ticket to come and see the show. Why would they come to see the show? They can just tune in on TV effectively for free, and maybe yes, on the pay-per-views you have to pay something, but it's like $40 or something, or whatever else it is. But that's way cheaper to pay that $40 or whatever else it is than it is to pay, $40,000 for some tickets or whatever else it is, especially if you've got a family of four or whatever else it is. And yes, again, like even family discount, like that's ridiculous. Some of those, and that's like again, yes, that is some of the biggest time prices for WrestleMania or whatever, but it's still ridiculous. People, the average Joe can't come to your show, then they're gonna say, well, hey, we still want to see wrestling every week, every month, every whatever. Where can we go? What can we see? Well, there's AAA, that's mostly in Mexico. There's AEW, and there's TNA. And maybe there's NWA, and maybe our local indie shows. Maybe New Japan will come over and tour. Maybe. But, that's pretty much it. Those are the big shows that are really out and about and around, and you can actually go and see these things come to your town once every couple of weeks or every couple of months or whatever else it is. Depends where you are and whatever else. Because, again, they do try to service as much of the market that WWE doesn't serve as possible. So they do try to, and they didn't have to, because, again, those markets are overserved and, just more expensive in general. So it's like, well, why would we try to price people out? But we've got to make money, so it's like, well, we can't just let people in. We can't give away tickets. Like, we could give away some tickets as prizes or as this or as that or whatever, or some family tickets or whatever else it is, or whatever, things like that. But again, and maybe, we want to break our records or whatever, but and then the last few years has just been really good, where they've broke record after record last couple of years. We have to wait to see, Rebellion's going to be a big calling card, I feel which is coming up in April. Genesis was a pretty big show. This last Genesis, that was a pretty big show. It wasn't as big perhaps as last year's, or as big as Slammiversary or Bound for Glory last year, but still, it was still a pretty big show for the most part. But yeah, that's where we need to look. We need to look at where we were at and where we're at now, because those tell the numbers. You can't, just poo-poo and say, oh, well, that doesn't... No, yes, it does mean something. Absolutely means something. If we've got more numbers now than what we had before, then we're doing something right. People are interested in what we're doing. And that's what these numbers say. They say, hey, people are interested in what we're doing. We are something that people want to tune into on a Thursday night, or whatever else it is. There is an interest, not just in the fact that we exist, or that people just happen to be sitting there on their Netflix and chill moment or whatever else it was. At that time of night, they were not if people were just watching whatever they were watching and then TNA came on, they didn't tune out, did they? It was or did more people tune into that? That's what I mean. And this doesn't even include the app numbers, the AMC Plus numbers, or the TNA Plus numbers. So again, those could add a lot more viewers to it. But just seeing what's on, everyone's effectively cable, it's reassuring news, and we have to keep, like I said, keep up with this, and I'll have to keep, trying to keep track of the numbers as we go along, and whether they're going up or down or whatever, or they're roughly staying around the same or whatever. Because I said before, maybe they felt like they plateaued a couple of times. But then I was like, oh, they've gone even higher. They're 10K, 20K, 30K higher or whatever else it was. I was like, okay. we haven't gone past 200, maybe 260-ish K yet. But, like, who's to say that we can't? Who's to say that we can't get to 300K? Who's to say that we can't get to 400K, 500K, or 1 million? Who knows? Like, that's the thing. Like, you should never say never. And you should never be, like, thinking that it can't do something. Because, like, if they find the right combination, and even though some of the combination that they've got right now is really good, it's like, yes, but there needs to be other things tightened or other wheels, sprung or whatever else it is. Not everything is as where it should be, perhaps, or whatever else it is. But then again, you can't have everyone and everything, going at the same thing at the same time. It doesn't work like that. People don't really understand. Like, you've got to have every segment of the card. You can't just have a main event and that's it. And everything's stuffed into that main event. It doesn't work like that. You've got to start your show and people are kind of like clamoring in or whatever else it is. That's why you have your quote-unquote dark matches, your warm-up matches or whatever else it is, because people are just like, oh yeah, oh well, it's actually starting now. Oh, okay, cool, quick, let's go get our seats, let's get it, or whatever, let's get our beers or whatever else it is and get a seat or whatever. Or people are just waiting. Hey, they haven't started yet. But then again, they're also like the wrestlers and the production are also like, hey, are people gonna actually settle in and get their seats? So sometimes they're just like, are we gonna wait, or are we gonna be like, okay, at a certain point, let's just do it, because they're kind of waiting for us and we're kind of waiting for them. So it's like playing a bit of chicken here or whatever else it is. It's like, okay, one of us has to make a move at some point, and it doesn't look like any one of them is making that much of a move, so let's make a move. We might as well put the dark matches on and then see that people get to their seats, because people are going to get to their seats and then be like, oh yeah, everything's starting, yeah, dark matches, whatever else. The show's going to start in like maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. Okay, better go get my beer, go get my seat, whatever, go get my snacks, whatever. Let's go sit down. We'll see the end of that dark match or whatever else it is. And if it's something, exciting or somebody new or whatever else it is, maybe they'll be like, oh shit, Ricky Sosa's here, or this person's here, or whatever else it is. That's cool. I kind of want to see them, even if they're in just like a jobber match. So, okay, cool. I'm going to go sit down and check this out, even if it's only going to be 5 minutes or whatever else it is, and then there's people just piling into the arena. People can only get through so quickly or whatever else too. So you never know what it is sometimes when people are getting into the arenas, especially early on. But then once people are like settled down to an extent and watching the show and things like that and seeing what's happening, seeing the matches, seeing the moments, seeing the stories, and you're getting towards like that, like you finally got through your opening match sort of stuff of people actually settling in, then you're starting to get into the mid card sort of thing of like people are settled in, they're paying attention now kind of, and now we're into our mid card. Okay, cool, great. Then people are maybe starting to get a bit restless after that, because then you're starting to get between your like into your like depths of your mid card, and that's when people start tuning out to an extent, when you start going too long into your mid card or whatever else it is, or the other stuff that's on the show or whatever else it is, unless there's something really interesting or really exciting in those mid card matches or whatever else it is. So then you have to go, okay, let's give them something more spicy or whatever else it is. And this is usually on the pay-per-views, but same for like the TV episodes sort of thing. You have to be like, okay, either we have to give them piss break match to let them go and have their piss break, or just whatever. Okay, yeah, sure, I don't really care. Let's just tune things down, or like you either need to know, hey, is it time to tune things up because people are we're slowly losing them, or is it time to be like, okay, piss break match time, or just, piss break time, like time for people just to tune out for a little while, and then we're going to come back hot with the main event or whatever, or you're just going to go, okay, let's give them like a really, really hot match now, and like get them awake and get them fired up and all of that. Then let's have like a piss break match or whatever, and then we'll have the main event or whatever, and that can be hard sometimes. So reading the audience sometimes is also being able to change things and go, they're a little bit restless, so we either want to give them something to cheer for, or to get going with and get excited for, or we want to be like, okay, piss break time, let's just go into the doldrums a bit more and let them go and have their piss break or whatever, so like you need to know that, and the wrestlers need to know that too. Yeah, but anyway, guys, I think the numbers don't lie, and they spell doom for you at sacrifice. But yeah, yeah, the whole thing. I thought I'd do the whole thing. TNA has a 65th chance of beating AEW at Sacrifice. But yeah, no, I don't know. But yeah, like, that's what I mean. Like, that's where we're at. We need to be looking at saying, our odds have increased every single time. Our numbers have increased every single time. Yes, like one there, but still it's way over our starting days. Like the first two, like I said, I thought the first couple of weeks were going to be the biggest weeks, because it's like the most interest. People are like, oh shit, this new thing for TNA. But it often isn't. It actually isn't often that way. It's a real like, oh okay, this is a real thing. Oh okay, this is a real, like it really takes time for people to kind of get into, oh, this wrestling thing. Okay, that's on Thursday night Impact. Yes, okay, that thing. Okay, right. Thursday, from this time to that time, whatever. Right, okay, what? So sometimes there's that gap of people hearing things and seeing things sometimes, or whatever, not even hearing them or seeing them. Sometimes it's just, I happen to be, sitting here on a Thursday night wanting to watch a show, and just Impact Wrestling, TNA Impact Wrestling, Thursday Night Impact, what the heck is this? And then maybe remembering, or maybe being like, okay, maybe I'll check it out. What's this all about? TNA Wrestling. Each and every week, a wrestling show, whatever. I used to watch WWE, I used to really like WWE. I used to like wrestling. Maybe I'll check this TNA out, whatever. Or same thing. Hey, I've been watching WWE. I've seen these guys come on NXT or whatever else it is, and that sort of thing, and whatnot. So there's all sorts of reasons why people tune in. Like now, it's like suddenly you have a hot angle, or suddenly you have a show that resonates with people because you have this, because you have that, because of something. For some reason, people went, that sounds interesting, I'll tune in, or whatever. Again, whatever it is, there's so many things. But again, I would love to see like more details on like merch sales and things like that, and all this other stuff too, because I do think that seeing who people are kind of interested in it and invested in makes it like, okay, maybe my perception is wrong on Laying Lee, or on this person, or on that person, or whatever. There are more people that are interested in her than what I had anticipated, because I was like, oh no, not that many people are that interested, that much, or whatever. So yeah, but they do not hate her or whatever on all of that. But again, it's like, yeah, but they don't love her. So again, saying, hey, if I saw, hey, she's actually the number one shirt seller or something like that, or number two shirt seller or something like that, or whatever, or the number two merch seller, I'd be like, oh, okay, well, color me wrong then. Like, obviously she's like the boss and people really do like her. Or maybe, like, if you're saying, oh, well, it's the Angel Warriors tee that's selling. Well, is it Zaya that's getting over? Or is it the team that's getting over? You know what I mean? Like, so that's what I mean. Like, seeing some of that would be interesting and helpful to be like, oh, okay, this is who's getting over. But that is more for them to be like, hey, this is who's getting over, because we can see their shirts are selling. We can see that when they're on TV or whatever else it is, that more people are engaged. And like I said, this story with Macklin, it's freaking insane, and I love it. And I can't wait to see what happens with it. And I think like, again, if this was happening on WWE, people would be like, holy shit, this is like the best thing that WWE has done in ages, So again, like, TNA is often underrated and often underrepresented. And I do think more people need, like I said, this gives them the opportunity and the base to actually get those people to tune in. Whereas before, you're just like fighting, like, to say, hey, we exist, and like, people just being like, yeah, you might exist, but I can't freaking watch anything that you're doing because your network isn't available to hardly anyone with a shoe. Like, you can't get this thing, so it's like, well, I would like to tune in, but I can't tune in because I don't get the network. Whereas, like, if you, like, it's a fairly easy network to get or whatever, like Netflix, which basically everyone has, it's like, yeah, well, of course we're going to do better on something that is basically one of the biggest streaming apps in the world. But yeah, it is what it is. And I hope that the numbers, and we'll check next time whenever the numbers come out, I hope they're growing, and from this, they certainly should be about the same, if not more. So yeah, we'll wait to see those numbers when they do come out, and I'll try to keep you guys as informed as what I can. And yeah, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this one, and I hope you guys will all take care of one another out there in this crazy world, and then tune back in to another one here, and hope to see you then.